I used to think sunlight was the closest thing to God we had on earth. Warm, golden, forgiving. You stand under it, and it hugs you. It makes your skin glow, makes your bones feel alive, makes your mind drift back to simpler days. I grew up in Miami, surrounded by beaches and warm breezes, so the sun was as much a part of me as my own name. Most men grow out of their childhood obsessions. I never did. I worshiped the sun long after everyone else learned to respect it, and by the time I respected it too late, it branded its warning deep into my skin, a tiny spot that grew into the final paragraph of my story. There's a strange thing about tiny changes in your body. They don't show up loudly. They don't come with violins or dramatic lightning strikes. They whisper. They nudge. They tap you softly on the shoulder, hoping you'll notice. My warning came in the size of a pencil eraser, barely darker than a shadow sitting on my shoulder where I couldn't easily see it, unless I turned just the right way in the mirror. For years, it was just a freckle. That's what I called it. A freckle. A kiss from the sun. A memory of my youth. A harmless little thing I'd grown attached to the way one grows attached to scars or birthmarks. My wife Margaret noticed the change first. She always noticed everything before I did. That was her skill, her curse, and her gift all in one. One morning she pressed her fingers against that spot and said softly, "Victor, this looks different." I shrugged and told her it was the lighting. But she pulled me toward the window, tilted my shoulder under the sun, and traced the jagged edge of the spot with the tip of her finger. "It wasn't shaped like this before," she whispered. I laughed. I actually laughed. "It's just getting old along with me." She didn't laugh back. Her brow furrowed, and she bit her lip the way she did when she was afraid. I kissed her forehead to reassure her, and I said the words that have become the most poisonous words of my life. "It's nothing." Those words are why I'm lying here now in a hospital bed, speaking into a quiet room that listens more patiently than I ever did. The older I get, the more I realize how much we dismiss the one thing that carries us, our own skin. I spent decades baking under the Florida sun, chasing tans like trophies. Every summer I wanted my skin a little darker, a little richer, a little more alive. We didn't know better back then. Sunscreen was something mothers used on babies, not men. Men got sunburned, peeled, burned again, and bragged about it. We thought toughness meant not caring. Now I know toughness would have been caring anyway. The spot changed slowly, a little darker one year, a little larger the next. The shape got uneven, the border jagged. The color? Well, the color turned into something I should have feared, but I didn't. I kept telling myself sunlight was good for me. I'd stand in the yard, trimming hedges, feeling the heat across my shoulders, never once considering that warmth could be a warning. Margaret reminded me often. She'd say, "You should get that looked at." I would respond, "Doctors overreact." She'd say, "It's better to be safe." I'd respond, "I'll go next month." Next month always became the month after. The truth is, I wasn't scared of cancer. I was scared of being examined, the vulnerability of it, the cold room, the bright light, the doctor leaning in close, the feeling of being inspected like a machine someone is trying to fix. Pride is a foolish thing. It convinces you that your body shouldn't need help, that pain equals weakness, that checking something makes it real. I preferred pretending everything was fine. Pretending is easier when you don't stare too long in the mirror. The first real sign that something was wrong wasn't the spot. It was the itch beneath it, a crawling sensation that didn't stop. Some nights I would wake up scratching so hard that I broke the skin. And still, I told myself it was dryness, or allergies, or age. Aging becomes a blanket excuse if you let it. Your joints hurt age. Your vision blurs age. Your appetite shifts age. A mole starts bleeding age. By the time you realize it's not age, well, it doesn't matter anymore. Margaret passed 3 years before I got diagnosed. A stroke in her sleep. Quiet, merciful, unannounced. I wish she had stayed long enough to see me make the mistakes she always warned me not to make. Maybe she could have argued me into taking care of myself. She was the only one who could. Without her, nobody else had the same authority, the same emotional weight. My daughters tried, but daughters approach fathers with gentleness, with love that asks instead of demands. Margaret didn't ask. She insisted. And I needed that. I didn't know how much until she was gone. One afternoon after her passing, my oldest daughter visited. She hugged me, stepped back, then stopped mid-sentence when she saw the spot on my shoulder. "Dad, what is that?" she asked. Voice trembling. I said the same old line, "It's nothing." But she didn't accept that. She took a picture of it on her phone and showed me. Under that sharp, digital clarity, I couldn't lie to myself. The mole was black, deep, unnatural black. The edges looked like a coastline seen from above, irregular, unsettling, jagged. It didn't belong on a human body. It belonged in one of those textbooks they show in medical schools. Even I couldn't deny it anymore. She drove me to the dermatologist the next morning. I sat in the waiting room surrounded by posters showing exactly what I'd ignored. Skin cancer signs, ABCDE check. Early detection saves lives. I felt like the posters were mocking me. The doctor came in, kind eyes, gentle voice, steady hands. He examined the spot without judgment. Then he said 3 words I still hear at night when the hospital room is dark and too quiet. "We need biopsy." The results came back fast. Too fast. Usually when doctors delay, it's good news. When they rush, it means they're racing something inside you. The doctor walked in with a folder, sat down slowly, and said, "Victor, it's melanoma." He didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't soften it. He said it like a man who understands that truth is an act of mercy. I nodded, but couldn't feel my body. My ears rang. My hands trembled. My heart felt like it had forgotten how to beat steadily. "It has spread," he continued. That was the sentence that broke me. Spread. A word that means invasion. Something had broken free and begun traveling through my bloodstream like an outlaw. They found it in my lymph nodes. They found it pressing against my ribs. They found it in small, silent places that don't hurt until the very end. The doctor explained treatment options, but his tone told me they weren't cures. They were delays, holding patterns, borrowed time. That night, alone in my room, I stared at the ceiling and thought about that tiny spot. How small it was. How harmless it looked at first. How politely it introduced itself. Melanoma doesn't start like an earthquake. It starts like a whisper. And if you ignore a whisper long enough, it becomes the last thing you hear. I replayed memories in my head like scenes from an old film. Margaret touching my shoulder and saying, "This isn't right." Me brushing her away, my daughter's eyes widening in fear when she saw the spot. Me shrugging. The beach days. The sunbathing. The peeling skin. The tans I bragged about. The summers I spent shirtless, thinking a bronze glow made me look strong instead of vulnerable. We collect our mistakes over a lifetime, but some of them sit quietly waiting for their moment to strike. The treatment started badly. My body didn't react well. I lost weight fast. My appetite disappeared. Food tasted metallic like chewing on coins. My energy vanished. I'd walk across a room and feel like I'd climbed a hill. The pain grew slow and deep, not sharp, not dramatic, but constant, like a heavy hand pressing into my bones. Some days I felt like my skeleton was being carved from the inside. My daughters visited every day. They took turns sitting beside my bed, reading to me, telling me stories, playing old songs Margaret loved. They asked if I was comfortable. I lied. They asked if I needed anything. I lied again. I learned that dying comes with two forms of pain, the physical kind the nurses treat, and the emotional kind you hide from the people you love because you don't want to weigh them down with truth. The emotional pain is heavier. One night, my youngest daughter asked if I was scared. I didn't answer. I just held her hand. She cried quietly, and I felt like the worst father in the world. Not because I was dying, but because I had let something preventable become something fatal. I wasn't dying of melanoma. I was dying of stubbornness. Some mornings I wake up and stare at the hospital window. The sunlight still looks beautiful, golden, soft, forgiving. It shines across the floor in long lines the way it used to shine across my backyard. And I think to myself, how can something so warm be so deadly? But the sun isn't deadly. My choices were, my arrogance was. The idea that real men don't worry about skin. The idea that doctor visits were for people who had the luxury of time. The idea that tiny things didn't matter. If someone were listening to me now, really listening, I would tell them this: don't ignore your skin. Every mark is a message. Every change is a voice whispering for attention. The body doesn't betray you suddenly. It asks for help slowly, quietly, kindly, until one day it stops asking and simply fails. If there is a spot on your skin that changed even a little, go. Don't wait. Don't pretend. Don't do what I did and say, it's nothing. That phrase is a graveyard. That phrase steals futures. That phrase placed me in this bed. I spent my whole life loving the sun. I just never realized it wasn't the sun that was dangerous. It was the way I believed I was immune to it. Nothing in nature is harmless if you think you're invincible. Nothing small stays small forever if you ignore it. And no warning, no matter how quiet, should ever be pushed aside. I'm not angry at cancer. I'm angry at myself. Cancer did what cancer does, but I am the one who invited it in. The spot was there. The signs were there. The people who loved me were there. I just chose not to listen. If I could go back, I'd walk into a doctor's office the moment Margaret touched my shoulder. I'd sit under that bright examination light without fear. I'd take off my shirt and let them inspect every inch. I'd follow every warning. I'd protect my skin like my life depended on it, because it did.